Hey guys, my name is Matimio, and recently DICE has come out and said that the Battlefield community is gonna have the option or the ability to create our own maps in Battlefield 4. When I first learned about this, my initial reaction was, are we getting modding tools? Is this happening? Has DICE and EA gone back on their stance that the Frostbite engine is too unwieldy for anyone outside of DICE employment to actually use it effectively? This is amazing. Like, this is something that the Battlefield community has wanted forever, and it would increase the longevity of basically every Battlefield game that comes out. Sadly, that's not the case. What they mean by the community is going to be able to create their own maps. They don't actually mean that we individually are going to be able to try to design it by ourselves. What we're actually going to be able to do is pool all of our ideas on Reddit, for example, vote on a bunch of different concepts and different map designs, and then DICE is going to go in and try to implement it and create our own community map. Still really cool, don't get me wrong, but definitely not what I initially thought when I saw the headline on Battlelog. If you're wondering why we're not getting modding tools, you have to remember that this is the intellectual property of EA. The Frostbite engine is basically their baby. I don't think that they've ever given out the rights to a third-party developer. They are very conservative here because that's their competition and they want to use this as one of their selling points. Like, the Frostbite engine is pretty amazing when you look at it, and I don't think that they want to give anyone that advantage or the ability to use this engine and basically steal their intellectual property. I'm assuming that's really what it comes down to. The other big reason is that they want to sell DLC. If they gave the community the ability to create their own maps, then there's going to be less incentive for people to go out and buy the expansion packs or their DLC for all these games, because you know that there is going to be community members out there that are going to have the same talent as some of these DICE developers. They're going to spend all of their time creating these amazing maps, and so why would gamers want to go out and purchase more DLC content when they have all this amazing free content from the modding community? One way that you can get around this, though, is just making it so that all modding tools and mod maps are only available to premium members. Wow, I just solved that issue. But what I think it really just comes down to is that they don't want to give out this intellectual property. They don't want to have the competition seen what is under the hood, essentially. And so I think that is really the biggest reasons why we're not going to be able to use modding tools for these community maps. But as for the project itself, the first thing that we have to nail down as a community is deciding on its theme. Do we want this to be set in a jungle? Would we like it to be more infantry-based gameplay set in an urban setting? Do we want helicopters and jets flying around all over the place? We need to nail down this main theme or the main concept for the map, and then we can get more into the specifics on the nitty-gritty details and then go from there. What I would really love to see is a map that is centered inside of a city, but instead of having the majority of the action outside on street level, I would love it if it was more centered in the buildings themselves. You're still gonna have to move from building to building, but how cool would it be if a majority of the capture points are inside of these buildings, and then we can get more into destruction having a play on the dynamic of the map. Really, what I would love to see is more of a focus on that micro-destruction that we had in Battlefield 3 for the Close Quarter DLC. Maybe not to the same extent, but where walls are going to be able to take it out and open up new and different routes to attack certain objectives. I would love it if you could punch through 2 different walls and open up a completely different route to certain capture points. I would love to see that type of action added into Battlefield 4, and I think that having an urban setting map where a majority of the capture points are really inside of the buildings would be a perfect setting for that type of gameplay. I would also not be opposed to having another jungle or even a swamp map added into the game. I don't think we've ever had a true swamp map, and that could look amazing in the Frostbite engine. I would not be opposed to that as well, but it really gets down to the question, what would you guys like to see? What would be the perfect map in your eyes? Do you want it to be urban? Do you want it to be jungle theme? Do you want it to be a mix of the two or inside of a volcano, for example? What do you think would be the perfect setting for this community-based map? Let me know down below. I should also mention before I take off is that this is not taking away from the potential of having past Battlefield maps remade into Battlefield 4. They have clarified, a DICE developer has clarified, that this does not take away from that opportunity. This is meant to be its own DLC entirely. And that also gets to my next point, that this is actually more DLC content for Battlefield 4. I really have to give a tip of my hat to DICE for even doing this. I assumed that when the Final Stand DLC launched, that was all the content that we were going to be getting for this game. I was going to move on to Hardline. I was going to be like, yeah, every so often I'm going to move back to Battlefield 4. But, you know, eventually, after a year of playing the same maps over and over again, it's gonna get stale. And so the fact that they are still continuing to develop the game, not only with the CTE and making continuous patches, but bringing in new and fresh maps is just amazing to see. So I do have to give a tip of my hat to DICE. We don't know if there is going to be a cost here. They may charge a little bit more. I'm hoping that it's gonna be at least free for premium members, but even the simple fact that this is happening is really amazing to see. But yeah, guys, that is about it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. Once again, let me know what your perfect theme Battlefield map would be down below. But until tomorrow, have a good one and take it easy.